Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ted, and today I'm joined by.
Nerdarchy Dave.
We ask the age-old adage in D&D: are two heads really better than one? Hey, jump down in the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
So I had an interesting question come in over on Facebook Messenger, and we get a lot of messages there, so it's really a horrible place to ask questions that you really want us to interact with, because I may interact with you there, or I may not, depending on how many I have sitting in there. Gmail at Nerdarchy is the best place to send these because we put them in a file, and then we can go to the file and we can just pull them back out, and it's a lot easier. It's searchable.
So nerdarchy@gmail.com for any viewer suggestions or GM 911s.
Yeah. I just searched my phone for 5 minutes. I'm like, ugh, forget it. Somebody on Facebook.
So if you out there, if you requested this concept,
It's for you.
It's for you. We're sorry. Dave's phone stinks. Blame it on that.
Oh, is that what it is?
All right. So here's the deal. It has a game coming up where two players want to play a character as a multi-headed creature.
Yes. So
how do you do it?
Et and light. So the short of it was, I was like, hey, well, you just have them both. They both occupy the same body, right? So they're gonna share the same character sheet, and then from there, each head could have its own class, technically. And you have access to half the body.
So the way I would look at it is, number one, your strength, dex, and constitution are going to be the same for the body itself. It's going to have one pool of hit points,
yes,
right? But
dual mental stats.
But you're going to have dual mental stats. So one guy could be really intelligent, the other one could be really charismatic. They both could be, dumb as a rock when it comes to wisdom. However you want to figure that out. But I recommend that those stats, you roll separately. And then when it comes to actions in combat or whatnot, that's where it's going to get tricky, because you're only going to get one movement.
You only get one move action, but I would give you two reactions, 2 bonus actions, and 2 standard actions.
Now the Etten in the monster manual, he gets multi-attack, and he can attack with his Morning Star and Battle Axe, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And they clash, however you want to do it.
But technically, this is really 2 characters, though. It's not one. It's one creature, but it's 2 characters. So for action economy, I would say they're getting screwed because they're only getting 1 movement.
Right.
So there is that. It's just, but the bonus and really the reaction, the bonus action, and even the standard actions could really be dictated depending on what actions they take. So it could actually get a little complicated there.
If you went I'm going to be a fighter and you're going to be a mage, how do you handle concentration?
If you get hit, you have to concentrate. Now the question is, do you give them, do they get advantage for the 2 heads, or are you saying no, only one head actually has the ability to concentrate on it? So that's the one. Now the one thing I did recommend is 2 heads and wakeful are things that an Etten gets, and I would say give it to the character. That has advantage on wisdom perception checks and on saving throws against being blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, stunned, or knocked unconscious. I would give it to this player. I would also give them wakeful when one of the Etten's heads is asleep, the other head is awake. Now also for stats, this part is a little tricky. What stat adjustments do you think? I actually feel like this 2-headed character, because I don't know anything else about it other than it's just, I'm thinking human 2 heads, kind of ish. I would actually make the prime stat wisdom, and not particularly because this creature is wise, but because this creature has enhanced perception, and that's also a part of wisdom, is your ability to perceive your environment around you. So I would say you would have a +2 to wisdom, and
even though the Etten only has a 10.
Yeah, well, it's not really an Etten though. This is a 2-headed. creature.
No, I'm saying the Etten in the monster manual has the 2 heads.
Yes.
But it only has a 10 wisdom.
Well, true. Hey, maybe if he was actually a true giant, he would have had an 8. Uh, but yeah, so I would say he's got, and also wisdom is also kind of like your willpower, and it's not so much that individually this creature has more will, but there is literally two heads are better than one. So so that makes sense to me. Now the tricky part would be, where does that other bonus go? Now is it a burly creature kind of like an Etten, or I'm kind of feeling Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe it takes a hardier creature to have the two heads. I don't know. It's the only thing. That's the only thing I can think of. For the video, and just going off the top of my head, I'm gonna go +2 wisdom, +1 con, and give him those abilities from the Etten. He's not going to get. We're not going to consider it a human or anything else. We're just going to say that. And I might even go, well, you know what? Because of all this, maybe you're trained.
So we're actually making a race here.
Oh yeah. Like, how are you going to play this? Well, we're making the race. So maybe they're trained in perception, and that's their suite of abilities.
So it's got +2 to wisdom, advantage on perception, and trained. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. I know those list of things. Yeah, but that's like, if you look at what a dwarf gets or an elf gets.
Oh, absolutely. But
it's not quite as good.
But if you're allowing the situation where you've got the double the mentals, you've got essentially 2 sets of powers. When you're building it, okay, well, the body has got perception. Does that mean they both get to make a roll, or is it one collective roll for the
oh yeah. I was actually thinking about that after I spoke, and then you started talking. I'm like, oh right. Here's how I would probably do it. It would be a variation of what the book says. It actually is kind of like they would each have their own role based off their own stat. Like, it might be different because they might have different, because they have different mentals, right? Is what we're kind of saying for this character.
Right.
And they only have to win once. So so it's like a kind of like a variation on the help action.
Right.
But like, you either have to completely blind the creature, completely deaf it, completely make it unconscious for all those things to really work.
So then, but it would have 2 sets of powers, which would also mean, or 2 sets of classes, which also means, all right, that one body, this guy's trained in these skills, this guy's trained in those skills.
Yeah. So
how does that work for things that are not mental?
This is kind of what I was thinking, and the advice I had given was, I would treat it as a multi-class for a lot of things.
Okay.
So like, you're gonna have to pick what are your good saving throws. You don't get them both, right?
That's a good call. I hadn't even thought saving throws.
You're gonna pick the better of the two. You're gonna pick which hit points, which will probably be the better of the two.
Yeah, that makes the most
sense. Which sounds like an advantage, but it's also a disadvantage, because as 2 characters, you have half as many hit points in theory, or less. So you're going to get that. Now the skills is a little bit tougher. It's like, because I think I would just treat it like a multi-class. You pick the better skill suite of the 2. And if multi-classing into that second one would give you an extra skill,
you'd get it. So if you went, let's say, Bard and Rogue, then you could take the Bard set and then the one from the Rogue, or vice versa.
Correct.
So that is a useful set there, but when you're looking at, okay, if I was playing 2 characters, we'd both have these set of skills, we'd both have these set of hit points, and now we don't.
Yes, you're literally getting less. It is actually, you are much better. There's really very little benefits to playing this type of character compared to playing 2 different characters.
Right.
Now when I said I would use the multi-classing for those things. Now, that being said, I would just completely say you have the full suite of abilities for each class, all the features.
Right, and when you level, you get everything. So it's so you are technically leveling both things as one character at one time, kind of like a Gestalt version of what was in 3rd edition. But at the same time, it's really 2 characters, so you would have that anyway.
You would, yeah, exactly.
So,
and the other part that might be interesting too is your bonds, your ideals, and your flaws. Like, some of them could be shared, but some of them, they might be different. You might have your own. Especially, I feel like for the bonds, well, actually, any of them really. So very easily.
So the other thing is, like, how would you handle like things at the table? Like, when it's your turn, do they go on separate initiatives? Like, how or do you say, okay, whoever, like,
Because initiative tends to be a physical thing, I would say they go on the same initiative.
Right, so they go on the same initiative, and they would have to work out like, okay, well, since I'm only getting the move once, can I cast my spell here? Then you rush into combat and take your attack, so that my spell will go off before we get into the middle of it.
Yeah, why not? You can do that anyway. Technically, you can use your move however you want.
Right.
You literally just have more actions.
Yeah, it's not third edition where you have
there's an order
right
before or after, and you have to pick and choose. In fifth edition, you can do it either way. So that's how I would handle it. So I just thought it was kind of like an interesting question. I definitely wouldn't go out of my way to like placate those players because they're playing this weird thing, but I would allow it, and this is how I would do it, and it would be like, it's literally better to just play two different characters than it is to do this idea. But at the same time, it is interesting, and if you want to go for it and just know that you're not quite as good as everybody else at the table, more power to you. Snowflakes melt.
But at the same time, if he builds any kind of reputation for doing something good, like he's going to stand out more than anybody else because clearly
he's got two heads. Yeah, two heads are better than one. He said there's some interesting dating scenarios, and be like, it gets kind of weird. I don't know, guys. Would you allow it in your game? Your two players come to you with this. What do you do? If it was one player going, I wanted to play this, I would say no way, or I would not make it nearly as cool.
Right.
That is for sure.
Right.
Because that's just power gaming. But because it's two players, it's not really a big deal. Let us know in the comments below what you think. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can support us over on Patreon.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.